So at 7 years old, I would go visit my mom and she would come out from behind a big glass door and I would sit there and have about an hour, almost like jail. So my grandmother raised me. My mother had schizophrenia. My dad was alcoholic at 18 years old. My mom, 20 years old, was diagnosed institutionalized. So I was two, but I was 3 years old out with my grandmother. And I lived with my grandmother all the way until I got her a condo when I was 38 years old. So I lived with her all of that time. So family life for me was, I had the benefit of a mature household. We didn't argue, fuss, or fight. My grandmother was 50 years old when she picked me up. So we're sitting, we're talking. You know how old people just talk. So I'm accustomed to just sitting down, listening, and so on and so forth. Right. So when I would go to my aunt's house, that would be over the weekends. And that's because I have a sister, but she was by another man. So I have a half sister. And she was in a different place. So I would go to my aunt's because she was trying to give me socialization, like socialize with your cousins and things like that. So that's what I mean by we would be out in the suburbs and I would go back to my aunt's house and deal like that. So family life for me was really solid. It was just me and my grandmother and cleaning, like old school, like toothbrush to clean out the grout lines type of deals. And I would go to my cousin's house and they playing Nintendo. And they're younger than me. They playing Nintendo, got go-karts and doing things like that, super soakers and all of that stuff. And I'm sitting there. And so I was always forced to kind of become the more adult child. So that was just kind of how I lived.
How did things, so where are you with your mom?
What do you mean by where am I?
So you mentioned your mom got institutionalized at 23?
No, at 20 years old.
At 20 years old?
Yeah.
So, what's your relationship like? So, how does that work?
So, I said the other day, the emotional part about it is that the one good thing is that I was able to grow up and experience the most genuine form of love because she does not have the mental capability to experience any of these other things. So you know how you grow up with your mom and then your mom kind of disciplines you and then you have resentment, or your mom maybe resents some things that you did, or your dad left, so you get these things. My mom doesn't have the capability to have those emotions. She can, but they were never projected onto me. Right. So the only experience I have with my mom is, as much as mentally she's not there, she's gonna get me a gift, call on me, check on me, do those things. My relationship with my mom is that she's been institutionalized. So at 7 years old, I would go visit my mom and she would come out from behind a big glass door and I would sit there and have about an hour, almost like jail. But the difference is that instead of it being union of, I miss you so much, it's just you kind of sitting there and she'll have a conversation with you and then she'll start talking to something and you don't know. And I knew as a young person that she was talking to somebody who wasn't there, and people kind of look, and we could take her out, and we take her out, we'd be at a restaurant and then she might be just kind of talking to herself, and then you'd be like, Mom, what? She'd say, what to you? Who you talking to? Nobody, but I knew, and I think my grandmother, I have to say I think because I don't know for certain, but I think my grandmother kind of let me know that there was a problem that was going on, and it was just, that's what it was. And because it was so young, there was never any trauma that I know of, because my experience with my mom was a mom who, this is how she was.
Sure.
And
so it's normalized
it's
at a
very
young age.
normal.